This is Inside Indiana Business Radio for Thursday, February 20th, 2025. I'm Marek Mazurek. A majority of consumers are expecting to see higher prices at grocery stores and restaurants if President Donald Trump's proposed tariffs are enacted, according to a new survey from Purdue University. The Consumer Food Insights report from the Center for Food Demand Analysis and Sustainability at Purdue surveys more than 1,200 adults across the country to track trends and changes in consumer food demand and food sustainability behaviors. Joe Balagtas, president of Agricultural Economics and the director of the Center for Food Demand, says consumers were asked what they thought the effect of the president's proposed 25% tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico, which are currently being paused, would be.
Of course, the biggest concern is that tariffs would increase the prices of imported foods, also of domestically produced foods that compete with those imported foods. And so the effect on prices is top of mind.
According to the survey, 52% of Democrats believe tariffs would lead to substantial price increases for food, compared to 35% of independents, but just 22% of Republicans. Community Health Network this week announced a joint venture with a Tennessee-based health company to build two 120-bed inpatient hospitals in the Indianapolis area, with construction scheduled to begin in early 2026. Community Health Network spokesperson Chris Kirschner said possible locations for the new facilities, likely to be called community behavioral health hospitals, are still being evaluated. She would not provide cost estimates for the project. The planned expansion is in response to the increased need for service focused on serious mental health illness, the organizations said in a joint news release. Community Health is partnering with LifePoint Health from Tennessee, and LifePoint will manage operations at the freestanding hospitals. In announcing plans to build the hospitals, Community and LifePoint cited a finding from the Community Mental Health Needs Assessment for Marion County that says 2/3 of county residents who needed treatment for a serious mental illness did not receive it. From the number one source for Indiana business news, this is Inside Indiana Business Radio.
To succeed, you need to stay informed. You need to be engaged. And let's face it, you need to set yourself apart from the rest by connecting with a company that brings you the best. Because in today's environment, business is an ever-moving target, and we'll help you chase it. IBJ Media. The best of business is in us. Get started at ibjmedia.com/youngprofessional.
The Ports of Indiana has hired a new chief operating officer, a maritime logistics executive with more than 30 years of experience in the shipping industry. David Parrott joins as operator of the state's 3 maritime ports after serving as a vice president with Metro Ports, the oldest cargo loading services provider in the country. The Port Authority said in a news release that he has supervised facilities in South Carolina, North Carolina, Texas, and Minnesota, and helped launch the company's first Great Lakes operation at Burns Harbor. Parrott takes over as the ports tallied their second highest year for annual shipments in 2024. A native Hoosier now in Michigan, one of the Democratic Party's rising stars, has a key decision to make. Per reporting by the Associated Press, Pete Buttigieg is discussing his future with party officials, labor leaders, and top strategists. He must decide soon whether he wants to return to the national spotlight as a candidate in Michigan's U.S. Senate race or step aside to instead seek a much bigger role as his party's next presidential nominee. Prominent allies believe Buttigieg cannot feasibly do both, even as others raise a comparison to Barack Obama, who was elected president just 4 years after becoming a U.S. senator. Since his time as transportation secretary under President Joe Biden, Buttigieg has been relatively quiet back in Traverse City, Michigan, where his husband Chasten's family is from. Buttigieg has the tools to lead his party on the national scale if he wants. More than 4 years after the little-known mayor outperformed far more experienced Democrats in the Iowa presidential caucuses, he remains one of the party's best communicators, boasting a massive social media following, a national donor network, and a Midwestern charm he displays in Fox News Channel interviews and smaller settings alike. Cases of the highly pathogenic avian influenza, or the avian flu, continue to grow as the virus has been detected in 2 more Indiana counties. The Indiana State Board of Animal Health this week reported cases of avian flu at a commercial duck farm in Elkhart County and a commercial turkey farm in Washington County. In Elkhart County, the case involves a flock of nearly 4,200 birds. The case in Washington County is the second time in less than a week involving a commercial turkey farm. The Washington County outbreak totaled almost 20,000 birds. The new cases bring the total number of avian flu reports in 2025 to 14. All previous cases have resulted in the affected flocks being depopulated. Darren Karcher, a poultry extension specialist and associate professor of animal science at Purdue University, told Inside Indiana Business earlier this month that the virus is most likely spread through the droppings of infected waterfowl like geese and ducks, which get into enclosures of commercial flocks. Crew Car Wash Vice President Sally Grant is this week's guest on the Business and Beyond podcast with Gary Dick, presented by PNC. A weekly conversation with high-profile Hoosiers in business, sports, entertainment, and beyond. Available now from your favorite podcast provider. I'm Marek Mazurek for Inside Indiana Business Radio on Demand.